What's up, leaders? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Lead From Here podcast. I'm Jason. Today, I wanted to talk about communication. Before I get into that, though, address the elephant in the room. We're coming from a different angle today. Excited to kind of mix it up this year a little bit. So moving on. So communication is very important for what you do as a leader. And it's not the volume that's important, because guess what? Right now, all of your people are dealing with the most information they've ever dealt with in their entire life. Whether you're talking about AI, the news, Slack messages, emails, town halls, team meetings, stand-ups, all of those things contribute to information overload. And while it may seem like more information is always better, it's not necessarily the case. If your people are constantly saying like, wait, what's my next priority? Or, hey, I'm not really sure where we're going next. Or, hey, that decision kind of caught me off guard. What is up with that? Those are kind of all signs that they're not truly understanding what's being said. More information, you saying more things, you sending more messages, you communicating more often does not necessarily mean more clarity. If you're not communicating clearly, or you're mixing up messages, or you're trying to be novel with your responses, it's important to know that that can be impactful negatively to your team. Looking back on my career, I can think of multiple instances where I was giving messages to make myself feel more engaged in the process that didn't really provide as much value as I thought they did. And looking back on those times, I really wish I had known some things I could do to make sure that, one, they were actually getting the message, but two, understanding that I'm engaged in other ways, not just messaging. Messaging is a part of my job, and I need to be very good at that. But that is not a volume competition. That is a quality competition. You're probably asking yourself, why is more information a bad thing? And it isn't necessarily inherently bad. But when people get into a state of informational overload, they tend to tune out, which means your message isn't landing. They're either doing that, or they're reading constant updates on Slack or email or town halls or recordings of meetings or your status updates in the morning. There's a lot of different ways that information can come to them, and that can take away from time they're actually working. You don't want that. And ultimately, there's other things that impact. There's things like the ability to understand what the actual next path is. If you're sending multiple communications from multiple departments or multiple leaders in the department in different channels, they're not sure which channel is kind of the source of truth. And inside that, they're also not sure that the plan is actually the plan, because if you're changing a plan every week, which we talked about in the last episode, if you're changing the plan every week, they lose certainty that the plan is actually matters at all. So after hearing all this information, you may be wondering, am I communicating clearly enough with my team to actually make sure that they know where they're going? And there's a quick test you can do, a quick clarity test that you can kind of say, hey, do you know where you're going? And it's very simple. Go to every person on your team individually and ask them one question. What are our top 3 priorities? If those top 3 priorities, you get 4 or 5 different answers across your team, that actually means you have a clarity problem. No amount of Slack messages, emails, town halls, team syncs will fix a problem with clarity. So I urge you to stop communicating to make yourself feel better and communicate only the things that are absolutely necessary, and make sure the ask is inescapably clear. So what does that actually look like? What does it look like to take that information, take the things you know about now? What are the steps you take to make sure that you have clear communication? And there's 5 that I can think of off the top of my head. The first one is fewer channels. Listen, I understand it's hard. Slack is so easy to create channels about specific topics and keep them in all these different channels. You need to set one place, a single place where you keep all of the most important messages, and everybody knows that if there's something important or they're looking for priority answers, it's in that one channel. It's hard, it's frustrating, but that is where it has to happen. The next thing is repetition is way more important than novelty. I understand that it's, as a leader, you derive your value from being engaged and creating communications and making sure the team knows where they're going. It's way more important to say the exact same thing 10 times than it is to say the same thing in 10 different ways. It's not about how good you are as a leader. That is not the number of messages or the quality of the messages. The quality is way more important. It's more important to say the same thing over and over again to make sure that everybody understands where they're going than it is to say, hey, I'm saying the same thing in different ways to make myself feel better or make myself look better. The next thing is shorter messages, clearer ask. Make sure that when you send out a message, they know what they need to know, what they need to do, and by when. If your message doesn't answer those questions, don't send it, because it is not valuable. The next one is one that may be counterintuitive, but silence is a strategy. You don't need to say everything that comes on your plate. We'll touch more on this in a transparency episode in a couple weeks, but ultimately transparency and saying everything that comes across your plate does not help the team. It's important for you to help them stay focused. It's not important for you to make sure that they know every single thing that's happening at every single moment. For the last one, and I cannot stress how important this is, create space for questions. If you're constantly broadcasting, if you're constantly just talking a talking head or sending messages, and you're not creating space for questions, you are hurting your team. Make sure that the team knows that they can always ask questions. Make sure you create room for questions. Make sure whatever communication you send out has a call out for, hey, if you have questions, hit me up individually or here. Let them know that it's okay. Communication is the loop. It's not a megaphone. You have to use your influence and your title and your place in the business to help the team understand where they're going, because that is how they find success, which ultimately makes you find success. Because ultimately, it's important for you to understand what the team actually needs from you. It's not more messages, it's fewer messages and more context. It's not more announcements, it's fewer announcements and more decisions. It's not more channels and more communications in Slack, it's fewer communications and more consistency. Lastly, it's not more words, it's fewer words and more repetition. So that's it. In closing, remember, it's not your job to keep them informed. It's your job to keep them focused. The leader who sends the fewest messages with the most clarity wins. Communication isn't measured by output, it's measured by outcomes. Stop communicating more, start communicating better. That is the takeaway for this week. Stop communicating more, start communicating better. That is the most important thing for 2026, because this year is going to be crazy in all the best ways. I'm not being negative there, but it's going to be a crazy year. A lot is going to be happening. A lot of things are going to be changing. Clarity is the most important thing going into 2026. I hope everybody had a fantastic new year. I am looking forward to connecting with you all. I kind of took a few weeks off there because I felt like it's kind of weird for me to be like, you guys shouldn't be working because it's holidays, but here's all these messages for you to read. So we're back at it Monday, Wednesday. No, I lied. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, messages in LinkedIn and YouTube. Take a look, check it out. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, hit me up, jason@leadfromhere.co. Yeah. Otherwise, take care of yourself, take care of the people around you, and yeah, just take care.